right. Hello, everyone. We should be having a bunch of people coming in from the lobby. I believe.
We got some party people. We got some party people coming in.
Nice. All right. Love it. We'll let that population of the event start happening before we kick off the slides. But welcome all to the second, technically speaking, unwebinar as we are adopting the moniker. So great to see the numbers coming in. As we let you all come in, I'm going to go ahead and play the first couple slides here. We'll talk to those, and then we'll dive into the meat of it. But let's kick this thing off. Yeah, we went fancy. We got music, moving slide pieces. This is cool. All right, I love the creative genius that exists at this company. Today, we are going to be, both myself and Michael Tressler will be presenting and demoing on the PanaCast 50 video bar system, which is a brand new offering, brand new solution for the room that we have brought to market. And we'll touch on exactly what that is in just a moment for those of you that may not be aware of what that is or when it came on the scene and why it's important. Although if you're in this session, I assume that you already have somewhat of an idea, but we'll get into a bit more details after our housekeeping items. The housekeeping items, very simply, if you were here on the last one, great, you already know the drill. But if not, for your benefit, how we like to run these things is we like them to be somewhat structured, but not too structured at all. We're calling it an unwebinar because we don't want it to feel like a webinar. We want it to feel more like a conversation when you're ready to converse, right? We're still going to bring a presentation. We're still going to demo, but we're really, really looking forward to you turning on the camera and the mic if you're comfortable, raising your hand when you've got a question. We will have your mics disabled through the presentation just so that we avoid those accidental, embarrassing hot mic situations. But raise your hand if you've got a question, even if it's in the middle of the presentation. Raise that hand. One of the other team members on the team will get my attention or Michael's attention, and we'll stop dead in our tracks to field the question and really engage in conversation. That's the name of the game here. That's what we want to see happening. So that's why it's an unwebinar. It's not supposed to be us just talking at you. It's us bringing, hopefully, some useful information, something you didn't know before, and then the conversation happening. It's a chance for you to take those burning technical questions that you maybe have had. You've seen the fancy marketing stuff out there. We make really cool marketing videos and announcements, and maybe you have follow-up questions on a more technical level. Bring them. That's what this is for. And the last little bit of that is that we are, just like the last session, giving away a really sweet hybrid working pair, the Evolve 2 Buds and the PanaCast 20, which is our personal 4K webcam. So we will be not doing the drawing during today's session. We'll instead be doing that afterwards once the attendance report is generated on our end, because we're basing the random drawing winner on those that attended today's session, which means if you're hearing me now live, you are in the entry, and we will look forward to hopefully being able to let you know that you are the lucky winner. We will contact you via the email that you registered with. So whatever email that was,
that's mtressler@jabra.com. That's the email that you'll want to.
Did everyone registered with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That's when you want to use.
You need an extra pair of buds and another PanaCast.
Who doesn't?
There?
Who doesn't need an extra pair of buds and an extra P20?
So monitor that email. Take a look in the spam in case it gets caught there. You know the usual drill. That's how we'll communicate with you after the session once we know where it's at. A couple other things about this session is it is not an NDA session, right? We have not validated anyone on this call to be under NDA. So we're not going to dive into NDA. We definitely welcome any and all questions, but just know that if you try to bring questions that would really be peeling deep into roadmap or going a little bit more NDA-ish in nature, we're going to have to defer to answering that later or taking it offline or whatever the case is there. And the last little bit is that once you are finished participating in today's webinar, if you could kindly hit that leave button up in the corner. We had a fun situation last time where this meeting ran for 8 hours straight. And so we will, once you're done, make sure you hit that. And that way the meeting wraps up and we can get to the drawing and things faster that way as well. So that's housekeeping. That's all the fun stuff. Let's move along to the meat of what we're here to talk about, which is the PanaCast 50 video bar system. We sometimes shorten that and call it VBS, right, with the acronyms, but there's a lot of acronyms out there. So video bar system is the new name for the solution. And for those that maybe, like I said earlier, you're here because you want to learn more, but you really don't know much about it or what it is or why it's different, why we're bringing it to the market. First off is that it is a continuation of the PanaCast experience that most of our customers and partners have grown to know and love with our PanaCast 50. There's the 180-degree field of view. There's all the really cool AI capabilities, the premium audio with the mic array that's built in, all those good things that you're used to with the PanaCast experience that carries forward. And that's the idea. You're getting a new option. You're getting new flavor to how you deploy this experience, but you get the expected familiar experience. Next up, this is a front of room bar that has an Android OS running on it, right? So that's kind of one of the big differentiators with the PanaCast 50, which we've had in market for a while. And this new system is that the previous device was a USB peripheral. As fancy and cool as it is, it's a USB peripheral. You connect it to a PC, and it's your camera, mic, speakers with a whole bunch of cool AI goodness. This is actually the PC for you, right? This is running the Android operating system that is either running Teams rooms or Zoom rooms. So big difference there between the two. So it's your standalone system versus your add-on to other PCs or computes. And finally, as you see on screen here, the main components, but we'll dive into a little bit of what all the components are, is the base unit, which is the bar itself. So when we talk about the base unit, we're talking about the video bar up front with audio, plus the control. The control is that touch controller at the bottom. And when you talk about the two of them together, that is the video bar system. So that's our base. With that, let's talk about some stuff. And to be more specific, the stuff that we see on this screen is kind of our guide of what today's presentation is going to include, followed up by what's most important to everybody anyway, the actual demo that Michael will be doing for us. To really
Josh,
quickly touch on, yeah.
I'm going to rudely interrupt because that's what I do. Henry's got a question, and it's saying, can you download other meeting apps that run on Android onto the VBS?
Yes, natural question. No. The answer is no to that at this stage, right? Down the line, and we'll kind of get into the fact that you can update this as updates are come out to bring new features and capabilities down the line. That's not to say that other platforms won't be supported beyond Teams rooms and Zoom rooms, which are supported today. But those are the two that are there. The OS is very intentionally locked down to specific functionality. There are all kinds of security reasons for that, among other reasons. But that's the quick answer there is right now, Teams rooms, Zoom rooms, more to come on that later. But it will be as we introduce them. So awesome question.
So Android, so it can only run Teams or Zoom, and that's for security reasons. Another question came in just to clarify really quick. Android is running on the bar, the control, or both?
Oh, that is a good question.
That is a good one.
So you've
got,
you've got an OS running on both essentially, right? But they're going to talk to each other. They're going to pair to each other. You're going to sign into the account with, let's say it's a Teams room. You're going to sign into the account on the bar. You're going to sign into the account on the control. So they're both running their own apps, right? And then they're going to pair together and communicate. But yeah, very good question on that front.
Yep, because if you come from the Windows side, the controller on Teams rooms, Windows or Zoom rooms is just kind of just another monitor. Yeah, whereas on the Android world, it's basically two separate computers that then become best friends.
Yes. I love this. We're getting good questions right off the bat before we've even gotten into stuff. This is great. Keep the interruptions coming. I like it. All right. So we'll talk about the PanaCast experience that I just alluded to a moment ago. The out-of-the-box experience. So you order one of these. What do you get? What do we see there? How do you go about first-time installation? What does that look like? What are the choices you need to make? We'll talk about the IP-based nature, which we've already kind of talked about since we've got questions coming in. That's great. We'll talk about what the experiences are, the meeting experiences on the device as it exists today. We're going to talk a little bit about something called MDEP, or Microsoft Devices Ecosystem Platform. A very cool thing to highlight, though it's not specifically Jabra. We have a very important role there that I'd like to call out, so we'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk about what's coming. And that's really kind of giving you a view into what those experiences extend into in the next few months here. With that, the PanaCast experience, as I mentioned earlier, the goal that we want to bring is that you know what you're getting, you know what to expect from an experiential level when you get a PanaCast product, a 50, the video bar system, whether you're getting a BYOD version of the PanaCast 50, a room system that runs Windows on a PC. Our room system bundle includes the Lenovo ThinkSmart Core running that OS, or the video bar system, which is the new device running Android. And you kind of see some of the components that make that experience common across all these devices. Our 180-degree field of view that we have become known for in the marketplace, the fact that we are ready for the future of UC with an architecture that lets you continue to add new features and capabilities on, certified in Teams rooms and Zoom rooms. Everyone happens to know Jabra from the audio side pretty well. We carved out a good name for ourselves in the premium high-quality audio space. That carries over to this PanaCast experience. And then the 4 tenets of what this solution should be to our customers, our partners: simple, secure, flexible, and of course, reliable. So that is the experience that we are trying to build forward with the introduction of the video bar system. It just gives you choice, flexibility. Do we want to go with a BYOD setup? Do we need a Windows-based room system for whatever our requirements are? Or are we adopting the Android methodology because we want easier cabling, more compact setup, just an easier route to getting everything in place? Whatever the case is, you've got an answer to your huddle, small, medium-sized rooms.
Okay, that small, medium-sized room leads into the questions. Basically, both 2 questions asked. What kind of external microphones can we add here?
Why don't you go ahead and field that one?
Oh, you gonna throw that at me? You're gonna like, here, you take that one?
So yep, I am.
So we do not support external microphones. So there's your answer. The reason is we are certified for small and medium-sized rooms, which ties into the next question of how big is a optimal range for the boardroom. We're Microsoft Teams room certified at 15 feet by 20 feet is the Microsoft certification. We'll work a little bigger than that, but that's kind of the sweet spot. And so we don't need external microphones because the size of the rooms, we're sized properly. So for small and medium-sized rooms, no need for microphones.
And the next question, can you mix a room system with BYOD? So on the room system bundle, the Windows-based bundle, yes, right? There's options for that. On the video bar system, that is a few slides from now where I'll touch on the answer to that. Spoiler alert, you will be able to. Out of the box right now, not yet, but you will be able to very soon have a BYOD experience alongside the video bar system. So yeah, a few more slides. We'll dive a bit deeper, but not too deep on that. So great. Good questions. Love it. And again, if you do prefer to come on and voice the question, we strongly encourage you, cameras, mics, raise your hand. We love the conversation. So we'll answer questions like this all day long as well, too. Well, at least till the end of the hour and we get shut down. But, you know, we appreciate questions of all shapes and forms. So out of the box, what does this look like? I trust the video is playing for everyone. Is it playing, Michael? Are we good? Yeah, I got a nodding head. That's good. So what's in the box? I've listed them all out, you know, bullet points over on the side here because it's not just the base unit and the control. There are a lot of pieces that make it all come together. But obviously, you got the base unit and the control. Then you've got a power supply for that base unit. Okay, the power that is being delivered to the control is PoE. There's not a separate power supply that you need to worry about there. So power supply for the base unit. There's a wall mount plate. And we're going to talk a little bit about other mounting options in a moment, but it comes with the wall mount plate. You've got a privacy cover so that if you want the bar to not be looking around when no one's in the room or a meeting is not in session, you can keep that cover on. Then a cable compartment covers. So on the back, you've got all the different ports, a little inset compartment there. There's a couple of plastic covers that go into place that screw into place so that people can't come in the room, unplug things, mess with stuff in the back. You can cover that up, secure it, and keep that. It also keeps cables from being accidentally yanked out. And so they're there for a couple different reasons. But it comes with those, along with a little tool that you need to install them. If it was just a simple screwdriver, right? Anyone could walk in with a screwdriver and still be able to screw at the back of the. So there's a tool for that. It comes with it. The PoE power injector. Now, if you've got an Ethernet switch that you are plugging your control into that is PoE enabled, great. Ethernet from that PoE enabled switch to your control, end of story. If you don't have PoE capability from your switch, then there is this optional PoE power injector kit. We're going to show you what that looks like in a diagram in a minute, but that lets you take the Ethernet cable and a path to your Ethernet switch while giving you power through this injector, and that's how you will power the control. A few different Ethernet cables in here, one that's 1.8 meters, two that are 4.5 meters. Then you've got one HDMI cable at 1.8 meters. So let me pause there and say one HDMI cable. If you need a dual display setup, plan for a second HDMI cable. And then a couple regional power cables. So that's what's in the box when you as it ships.
For those who aren't watching chat real quick, on the PoE, is that PoE or PoE Plus?
Oh, I'm going to have to hang my head in shame and say I don't have the answer there.
It's regular PoE. We don't need the higher wattage that PoE Plus provides. So the inbox injector is just standard PoE. Don't ask me now. Don't ask me what that wattage is off the top of my head.
This is technically speaking. We're supposed to go really deep here, man. All right. All right. Awesome. And another one. Does the VBS support dual screens in either Zoom or Teams meetings? Yes, it does, in both. So there you go. And we did have a what's the wattage question. I assume that's a tongue-in-cheek question there. So
15 watts.
If not, Michael will surely chase it down.
I just searched it. 15 watts is PoE. So there you go. The wattage is 15 watts.
Okay. Our installation options. So when it comes to deploying the device, so we're talking about we've unboxed it, we're now plugging it in, we're running through the initial setup screens. We've got a few different options here. Before you even order it, there's a few different SKUs, variants that you can order the video bar system in. MS for Microsoft Teams rooms, ZR for Zoom rooms. You see in the pattern here, it got really complicated with how we named these with the acronyms. And then the UC variant. This is where no platform is selected at first boot up. So what we mean by that is that if you order an MS variant, it will ship with this option already selected for you. It will just boot into Microsoft Teams Rooms app. Same thing on the Zoom Room side. You don't have to make the choice. With UC, you will get this screen and you will have to make the choice and go down that path. So if you're deploying hundreds of these, and I'm sure many of you are going to do that, thousands of these, then you're going to want to simplify that deployment over and over and over again, taking as many steps out as possible for the field engineers that are installing. The more of these kinds of things you can trim down on, the better, right? So if you know you're a Teams shop through and through, great, order Teams, the Teams variant. Regardless of the SKU you get, you can reboot the thing, reset it into a different app. So if you want, right. It's not a warm swap. So pay attention to that. It's not like, hey, I want to use a Teams meeting, this meeting, and the next meeting, I want a native Zoom room. Let's just flip them. It's not like that. You got to be licensed on both platforms, and it's a full-on reboot and reconfiguration of the system. So yeah, if you change up what you want it to be, that's okay. You can do that, but just keep in mind, it's not like a flip-flop on the fly kind of situation.
Yeah, and also it's not a simple reboot, it's a factory reset. So the question is, how do you swap MS to Zoom? How long does that reboot take? Well, the reboot takes, 2 minutes, but then the factory reset, you got to go through all the questions. So 10 minutes, you've probably flipped from one to the other.
Right. Awesome. The other option you get when it comes to installation is how you want this to be positioned in the room. I already mentioned the wall mount was included in the box. That's an easy one, right? You can put it wherever you need on the wall. Typically, it'll be at a certain distance from your displays at the front of the room, but hey, you want to hang it from some other wall? Well, the wall mount gives you the option. I would not advise doing that in most situations, but again, flexibility. The other two options that we provide out there, table stand and the screen mount. Now, these are both optional accessories that you can order separately if you want them. The table stand, pretty straightforward. You've got a credenza or something at the front of the room. You want to set it on the table without putting holes in the wall. That's going to be your option. If you want it to be attached to your screens in some kind of way, then you want to get that screen mount. You'll actually use the wall mount that is provided, which will attach to the screen mount. That gives you the flexibility of saying we're going to position it below or above the screen with the screen mount. So those are your three choices, and you can kind of, go where you need to go. Again, remember, the wall mount is included. The other two options are optional accessories. Now, the IP-based nature of this. Here's that diagram I mentioned, right? I snatched the screenshot from our installation manual. This is also available in more detail out on our support website. So you can go out there already and check out the support documentation for the video bar system, and you'll see this there as well. But if you were kind of lost, as I was trying to describe as succinctly as possible, the PoE nature of the touch controller, these are your two options. You see the straightforward bolded option of plugging your touch controller directly into that Ethernet switch if it's a PoE enabled switch. If it's not, you've got that optional PoE kit there that you can use to plug into. In either case, there is no direct cable between the bar, the base unit, and the control. That frees you up from having to say, oh, great, now I got to stretch this cable X number of feet, and it just barely doesn't fit, and we got to get it under the carpet, and how are we you don't got to worry about all that like you do with a USB-connected room setup. These devices pair over the network. They need to be on the same network, but they pair over the network. So as long as you're connecting to the same network, and they can see each other on that network, you pair via IP, and you are freed up from a interconnected cable standpoint. So that's how the PoE side of it goes.
One of the things I like to say is that if you, I start talking, you swipe the slide. Can you go back one real quick?
Yep. Let me
just to simplify on the left-hand side of the screen where the bar is. If you replace the bar in your head with an Xbox, suddenly it's easy. Well, there's a video to the monitor. I need Ethernet or Wi-Fi to the internet. So it's very much, if you can connect an Xbox, you can connect one of these. Right. A controller, Xbox, you still need a Bluetooth controller. So we just got ours just needs an Ethernet cable instead of using Bluetooth or whatever the Xbox connected protocol is. But it's really is. I know there's a lot of lines and options and whatever, but ultimately just replace video bar with Xbox, and it's pretty much the same connections.
Awesome. And the other thing this doesn't really show you here is, of course, you have a power cable hanging off that video bar as well, right? So, but yeah, good call out. I mean, this is really a simple installation, and that's kind of the name of the game. A lot of organizations choose the Android approach over a room system approach with Windows because it's less modular, it's more straightforward, and it's an easier install. And this, kind of articulates exactly why that is. So. All right. Now the experiences. We know what to expect in the box. We know what to expect as we're installing it and what our options are that we got to make, the choices we got to make before we get to that point. What are the experiences that we can expect? We already talked about the PanaCast experience that we want to carry forward and what that means. But let's get a little bit more granular than the PanaCast experience. Specifically, what modes are available right now? And this is not what modes are available permanently into the future. Again, we will iterate, more will be added to the device as time goes on. But what's available right now? And right now, you can rely on the video modes that you are used to with that 180-degree field of view option, which honestly, it's not really a mode, right? That's when you are not using a mode. That's just the default view, 180-degree field of view. And so that's okay, 180 degrees. Now, I don't want to say it's not a mode in terms of nothing special is happening there. You still have 3 cameras that are being stitched together with AI in the background, which is a beautiful thing. But you got 180-degree field of view, intelligent zoom, which, you've got 1 or 2, 3 people in the room, people coming and going, and you don't want to focus on the whole room. You want to focus on just the people in the room. That's intelligent zoom. Virtual director uses the camera and onboard microarray to pinpoint the active speaker in the room and focus in on the conversation rather than the whole group. And then you've got dynamic composition, which is the meeting equity play, giving at least the topmost 4 active speakers their own little box on the screen, right? And then at this point in time, that is a single stream experience to the far end, but at least it breaks up those 4 most active speakers into their own boxes to kind of enhance the equity experience for the room. Michael, do you want to add something on the touch controller part of it? Because you've got the tech specs down pretty well on that 10.1-inch touch controller.
It is a WUXGA resolution, which is higher resolution than I think what most of our friends in the industry have out there. It's easy; just a single cable goes into it. You can mount it. You can bring it up through the bottom or perhaps from the back. So multiple different ways, 2 different ways to route cables into it. I don't know. Anything else? Yep. Am I missing anything obvious?
No, that's good. I just knew I was going to mess up the WXGA part, so I wanted you to say that. But yeah, it's a beautiful display.
Since we're talking,
you got that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Richard just asked a good question that we see a lot. We use Logitech Tap touch panels across the enterprise. Can we use that in lieu of the PanaCast touch panel? So these devices, be it Logitech or Jabra, they all pair at a vendor level, and there is no standard. So every vendor has chosen their own standard. So no, you cannot use a Logitech panel with a Jabra bar or vice versa.
What a good question. Like you said, one that is put out there often. So beautiful display. Again, and a good call out that you made earlier. If you are putting holes in the table and making sure it is a cableless experience on the table, that option is there, or you can run the cable out the back. And again, you've got that standard beamforming 8 microarray that's part of that PanaCast experience that aids in things like virtual director and just an all-around premium audio experience. And the Edge AI that is on board, the way this architecture has been designed is with that flexibility in mind. So that means that as new features and capabilities, which again, I'm going to touch on some of those in a minute, as they come to light, it is a fully updatable experience. As new experiences come along, you're not having to worry about how you're going to implement those. It's an update to the system. Now, you may need to manage that in some way on the back end if you decide to change certain settings as an admin, but in terms of getting it, this isn't new devices. This isn't buying new equipment or having to increase licensing to get this new feature, that new. This is updating your PanaCast 50 video bar system, and that's the part of that PanaCast experience. Okay, now I said I wanted to talk about this briefly. The MDEP. I prefer to call it MDEP because it takes so long to say Microsoft Devices Ecosystem Platform.
I prefer to call it acronym. I prefer to call it Windroid, but I'm pretty sure Microsoft hates me using the term Windroid. So
yeah, it just it comes off the tongue easier.
It comes way off the tongue. Windroid.
It does.
It's full of wind.
And to be honest, for most of us out there, it perfectly describes what exactly it is. Okay, this image that I used on this screen is a terrible image to have used on the screen because it is so many words. But what this is the actual excerpt from Microsoft's announcement on their tech community blog about the Microsoft Devices Ecosystem Platform, what it is, how it relies on these, Qualcomm processors, etc., and very importantly, the fact that the first device that will be taking advantage of and using this platform is none other than what we're talking about today, the Jabra PanaCast 50 video bar system. So how is it going to use it? What is it? Essentially, Microsoft is building their own Android OS, thus Michael's calling out of Windroid, right? They are building their own Android OS to exist on their collaboration devices with partners. There's a lot to unfold with this story. A lot of technical details are still yet to be shaken out, so we're only going to be able to really scratch the surface here on this. It is targeted for later this year, though you know how that goes. It could be not later this year. So, but that's the goal, later this year. And when it does come out, again, the first device running it will be what we're talking about today, Jabra's PanaCast 50 video bar system. How will it run it? Well, it'll be an optional thing, right? It will be an update, as I just alluded to a moment ago. It'll be an update to the system. Nothing fancy here. You don't have to order a brand new VBS or swap out the VBS with a different. It's the same video bar system you have, getting an update to run Microsoft's developed Android OS. Why is this important? Why should people care about this? Look at bullet point number 3. There's some really big security implications for why a lot of organizations will care about this. Many of them, when they think about going with an Android solution from an OEM like Jabra, right? They're like, look, we like the idea of Android for this reason and that reason, but our security team is putting all the stops up. We got to like validate it. We need white papers. There's a whole thing to make sure that this third-party developed Android OS is going to actually be secure and not be a giant nightmare for their security team. When that security team knows that the third party, Jabra, did not create the OS, Microsoft did, and they're already trusting Microsoft's platform. Jabra is simply bringing the state-of-the-art hardware. That makes the conversation so much different and much easier from the security perspective. So that's why this matters. That's why you'll want to keep an eye on it. And when you're looking to get your hands on it and be one of the first out there to test it out, you know where you're going to find it first, on the PanaCast 50 video bar system. Please note my asterisk at the bottom. This is completely dependent upon Microsoft's own development timeline. This is not something we are building. We are innovating with them in the background, engineering team to engineering team, to make sure we're ready for this launch, but Microsoft is building out this platform. Now,
just sprinkle a little fun onto this. Microsoft tends not to release anything major towards December because, well, no one's around to support it and market it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be soon. And if you ever worked at Microsoft, put a little trademark after soon TM. So somewhere between now and, I don't know, 2064.
Sooner rather than later is what we're hoping to see.
Definitely sooner than 2064, but you know.
Yeah. So, but it's a good call out though, right? I mean, and that is a very good thing when you think about, okay, what are realistic expectations? What actually happens at certain times of the year within different companies? And Microsoft's got a lot of development patterns that we can observe. December is challenging, so grain of salt with that end of year timeline. Speaking of the end of year timeline, what's coming to the video bar system in the next few months here? Now, I do not have slides to highlight or put these out there. I'm going to talk through some of these what's coming points. And the grain of salt that I'll give you is that, again, the intended release timeframe for these features and capabilities are before the end of year. There is still ongoing development, ongoing testing, so there is possible some of these things are delivered before end of year, are delivered early into the next year. It's again one of those grains of salt. Keep it in mind. But here are the things that I would like to highlight that are coming, that are very pertinent in this case. One of them is going to be the fact that the touch controller is going to be able to support changing into dynamic composition from the touch controller, as well as from the web UI. Why that's important, why that matters, is because when you change between video modes now, that's an admin function, right? That's not an on-the-fly end user in the room thing to just change it and move along. One of these updates is going to enable an in-the-room capability from the touch controller to be able to say, hey, I want to switch into dynamic composition mode. That's the mode we want to use. So that is coming. That's a very exciting change to how you manage video modes. Keep an eye out for that for more technical details as we get closer to that release. A couple other things that I want to call out there. In the Zoom world, what's pretty cool is that we will have multi-stream capability coming to the device in one of these updates for Zoom specifically, right? When it comes to the Microsoft story, that's a little different with Android. We do have that coming on the Windows side with the PanaCast 50 and the PanaCast 50 room system. That's coming for the Microsoft component, but Android is a bit different, so that's a little further down the road. On the Zoom side of the house, though, the ability to have multi-stream video capabilities and therefore smart gallery support will be part of these updates, again, targeted for before the end of the year. So if you are a Zoom customer, smart gallery is something you care about, that capability is coming imminently. We talked very briefly about BYOD being a part of these room systems. BYOD is going to be coming as part of these updates to the video bar system as well. So while you may intend for this to typically be an Android-based native room system, you will be able to use BYOD scenarios with it in the coming months on top of that.
And if those of you in the chat are wondering why I air quotes ignored the BYOD questions, I was waiting just for this. I was like, there's a what's coming slide. So yeah, BYOD coming most likely still this year. And for those who don't know, there's going to be a USB. You connect a USB-C cable out of the back of the bar, connect it into a laptop, and then you take over the camera, speaker, and microphone of the device. So anything that is like, if you want to use a Google Meet meeting or something, and you want to use this, high quality camera, speaker, and microphone instead of the, what's a good word to use? Less than optimal equipment that gets installed on your laptop, and you want people to actually see and hear you, then that's where BYOD mode comes in handy.
Yeah. The other couple things I want to call out, one is an update to dynamic composition. Now, keep in mind, this will still be a single stream feature, but instead of just having the 4 squares, the 4 Brady Bunch squares there, right, you will also be able to have the 180-degree field of view panoramic view underneath the 4 squares as part of the dynamic composition mode. So kind of an enhancement to what the end user experiences, the remote user, I should say, for the people in one of these rooms that has a video bar system. So that updates the dynamic composition. That is different than the multi-stream video capability I just mentioned with Smart Gallery. 2 separate things, right? The last piece that I'm going to call out on this slide for your knowledge, and that I want you to keep a very close eye on, is that we kind of quietly announced at InfoComm, along with a number of other big announcements to our capabilities with the PanaCast 50, we announced a brand new management platform that we are developing. We'll be continuing to develop long after it is released into the wild, but that is going to be making its appearance very soon over the next couple months. And with this management platform, there's a lot more to come, a lot more to talk about there. So I'm really going to be coy on this. But in relation to the video bar system, support for managing the video bar system in this brand new generation of a management system from Jabra will be coming in this update toward the end of the year. So that, I'm sure, I can just imagine that bullet point alone, that invisible bullet point, will raise all kinds of questions and all kinds of follow-up. And can we get deeper? And no, we cannot get deeper right now. But I'm going to, in a minute, point to the upcoming, technically speaking, webinars and unwebinars. And I would strongly recommend that you register for both of them, but especially our November webinar, which will be focused on this management platform, what it means, what our vision is, and what it will be supporting as it makes its way onto the scene. So let me actually get to that so that you are able to register for that and bookmark that coming up.
I'll tell you one thing, Josh. Jabra plus a management platform equals full of win.
Well, I'm going to say nothing else to that statement. That is, I
Full
agree with
win,
it 100%.
Baby.
Well said. Yes, and yes. And with that, happy birthday to Michael Tressler. A couple birthday gifts to you today. First, I'm not going to sing happy birthday to you. So that in and of itself is a gift.
So can I open a beer now to celebrate?
Go for it, man. Go for it. Second thing is I've informed everyone that you're only turning 32 years old today. So congratulations on that. Happy birthday. Time. Yep. Right. So, yeah, awesome stuff. So glad that he was willing to grace us with his presence and demo expertise on his birthday. So before I turn it over to him to demo, What's that?
My dad has a theory, and my dad's, you know, if I'm 32 and my dad had me, he's clearly barely over 50 or 60, right?
Good theory.
He has this theory that the hardest day of work should be your birthday, because that sets a tone for the rest of the year. So my dad always books meetings all day long on his birthday, as opposed to, you know, screwing around. So I'm here working all day. Then I'm flying to Phoenix tonight for a work event. So today from like 9 a.m. until 11 p.m. Eastern time is all dedicated to work. So I'm following Dad's birthday
There you
motto.
go. I mean, you know, you got to follow a theory. My theory is PTO. That's my running theory, and I'm going to stick with that. Yeah. So, but awesome. So I mentioned a minute ago, a couple sessions coming up. The very next one is on the PanaCast 20. So we're going to dig deeper into the PanaCast 20. Our man Eric Taylor is going to jump in with presenting there, and get to learn kind of into the weeds with what that is, why it's important to your hybrid and remote workers and those in the office, how it really ups the game from a video perspective, makes those conversations more naturally. Now, the QR code on screen is not going to take you to the registration page for the PanaCast 20. It's going to take you to a new landing page for all upcoming Technically Speaking on webinars. So bookmark that page, because if you want to know what's coming up 2-3 sessions in advance, that's where you're going to be able to keep up. You'll be able to watch the recording of the previous one there as well. And you will find our November session on this new management platform at the link to that QR code. So go there, bookmark, make sure we see you at those as well. That will be October 25th, 1 p.m. Eastern. And with that, if anyone needs the QR code afterwards, we can come back to it. But with that, I'm going to change gears and let Michael take over and demo some hands-on with the PanaCast 50 video bar system.
Hi, everyone. So I feel like, you know, I was thinking about buying a birthday hat. Maybe I'll just put these things on to make it look a little more festive. So the PanaCast 50 in the chat, I just want to click, you know, just make sure people's minds are clear. There are two separate products. There's a PanaCast 50. That's the thing we know and love. USB attached to your laptop for BYOD, connected to Teams rooms, connected to Zoom rooms, connected to Barco's and Airtames and Crestron and Air Medias and all kinds of things. And you're good to go. This is the video bar system, the PanaCast 50 video bar system, which does most of all of that, but also natively hosts the Teams room or the Zoom room meetings. There was some in the chat, just catching up. If you put this into Teams rooms mode, you can still join Zoom and Cisco WebEx meetings. If you put it in Zoom rooms mode, you can still join Teams and WebEx meetings due to cross-operability between these organizations. So the thought of, hey, there's a Teams meeting and then I need a hot swap to a Zoom app isn't the thing. You stay in the Teams app or you stay in the Zoom app. And he goes, now, if you got to go something else, go to meeting, plug your laptop into the BYOD and go that way. All right, what is on your screen right now is a theoretical conference room. At top, we have, you know, the monitor and the display. And here is the PanaCast 50 video bar system. Josh didn't mention it, but it's just a bit bigger than the PanaCast 50, maybe an inch on either end, because we have to, as you saw in the drawings, we have to add in more HDMI ports to connect to two external monitors, HDMI ingest, some USB-A ports, USB-C ports. So there's a little more in there. It's a little bit bigger. And then on the table, we have the touch console. And on the touch console, that's what you use to manage and run a meeting, which I just started by clicking the meet button. So let's kill this guy and let us see what we see. Here is my head being cut off because I'm super tall. Stand back. I'm 6'7", or for those of you who use a proper measuring system, that's 2 meters 1. So this is full PanaCast, 180-degree field of view. Now it's kind of, you know, it's in an office. It's a converted bedroom, so it's kind of lost what all you can see. But we're talking about the 180. Let me turn off my my personal camera here, the PanaCast 20, because I'm getting confused seeing myself twice. So there's 3 cameras that point in 3 different directions, which gives us a 180-degree field of view. And as I walk around the room, you'll see that at some point I'm going to try to cover it up. I'm on this camera right here. And I can only go to 2 of the 3 cameras because walls and stuff. And now I'm on this camera right here. So as I walk around, you'll see it's kind of stitching it seamlessly. There's no jump. Somebody asked what happens if you're on the seam. So if I go right on the seam, here we go. I'm right on the seam and, you know, moving around a little. And it's nice and smooth. So that's the full 180-degree field of view. Now, the problem with 180-degree field of view is that, well, the good thing is you see everything. The downside is that you see everything. So if I switch to the console, I'll show you what we can do here. And this is done by end users if they so wish. We've got this automatic framing option. So I'm going to go ahead and enable automatic framing. And that will then turn on intelligent zoom on the camera. And then we also have active speaker mode as well if we just want to track the person who is speaking. So let's go back to our display. And sometimes Tiny Taylor gets picked up. There you go. So it's picked up Tiny Taylor. You're now in regular Taylor, and you're not seeing any more behind my computer screen. You're not seeing that whole wall. So we zoomed in. So yes, we can do 180-degree field of view, which no one else can, but we can also go down to lower like everyone else does. So that's kind of, if you haven't seen the 180-degree field of view or the PanaCast 50 in action, this is it. Again, this is a Teams meeting. You can see on the console, I'm going to go to this view. You can see down at the bottom, and we zoom in. You can see down at the bottom, those are the Teams buttons that we're all used to seeing. So this whole meeting is happening on the bar, not on a separate computer. So as we take a look at both of these, oops, there we go. So that bar hanging under the screen is running this meeting. So let's, so this is cool, but let me leave the meeting and let's talk about how do we manage these video bars? Like what's behind the curtains, Oz? Let's see some of that. So I'll zoom in onto the console, hit the More button, hit Settings, and then we'll go to Device Settings. And you'll see we now flip into the world of Jabra. We got a lot of yellow, which we love, yellows and grays. If people complain just immediately, hey, the meeting's whatever, this is end user based, so an end user can change some things if they have difficulty reading. I mean, the size of my glasses, I already see what's happening 6 minutes into the future. These things are so thick. Nothing good, by the way. No lottery numbers ever pop in. High contrast mode, a couple about things, restart if you need to. I think for an unwebinar, the admin side is a little more interesting. These all ship with different passwords. So there's a different, I guess I can turn my camera back on because I'm not showing the other one. But this is Tay dominating the camera. Here we are. These all have different passwords, every single one. So it's the last 6 digits of the serial number. So I don't mind that you see my password because it is unique to here. And if you come into my house to use this username and password, at least say happy birthday before you come in and start changing the settings on my device. Here we have some settings to change, the name that's going to show up in logs and some deals like that. We can get the information on the devices. So these two devices are paired at 2 levels. At the Jabra level, so for example, if I change the language on one, it reflects that language change on the other device without having to go to 2 places. And then there's Teams pairing. So when I hit, join a meeting, it tells the bar, join the meeting. When I say turn down the volume on the controller, Teams then tells it to turn down the volume. So you can see that we've got the bar and we've got the control up here and some of the good information. This screen is because Jabra Video, the PanaCast 50, this is the killer feature. I never touch, like my rule of thumb when I do all this training is never touch these settings. Just, like seriously. And I never have. Until last week when I was at a conference and there were giant windows. Think the giant kind of windows you would have at a football stadium because I was at Lucas Oil and the light pouring in was epic. And we couldn't block all of the light. We put up a sign, but there was still so much light coming in. So it was amazing. I was able to turn down brightness, adjust the contrast, and we went from like the first second we turned this on going, oh my God, we can't display this thing. We can't do this. We can't have this in the booth today to, oh my God, hey, this problem solved. So this stuff is very useful when you get into rooms where you can't really control the lighting. You can work around it and help the camera work with that. On camera, we can tap on here. We can see the different modes that the camera does. So the verbiage here is Jabra. These are our terms for intelligent zoom, virtual director. When I change the mode in Teams, those are Microsoft's names because I forget what it was called, dynamic zoom or something, or whatever they call. I forget what it was called. Anybody remember? Doesn't matter. So there's two different words. So when you call like Jabra support, you would say, hey, I have a question about intelligent zoom. When you call Microsoft support, you say I have a question about dynamic focus or whatever they call it. Anyway, here you can change it. One fun thing is okay, yeah, here you can change it. And you're good to go with dynamic composition single stream, which we aren't going to show today. And then how fast do you want the transitions between the Zoom and virtual director? Faster, slower? Some people want to have whiplash as it goes around. Some people would like to have a much slower view across the room. So we can change those as well. And then some transition styles, which honestly I've never changed because I figure smooth is better. If you're in Europe or other parts of the world, you can manually change the the video frequency if things aren't there, and then we can reset all of this. Again, audio, microphone volume, this sets the default. So if on the other side, the user side, if people start monkeying around with the microphone thing, you can kind of overrule that. Network, each one of these devices has their own network address, IP address, that sort of thing, proxy servers that we can configure. And if we want to disable Bluetooth, useful for things like proximity join in the Teams Rooms world, but if we want to disable it, we let you do that. Here I mentioned, if you want to change the region, language, time zone, US, we like AMs, PMs, rest of the world likes to count to 24, so we can change that. This is a Teams Rooms, as shouldn't be a surprise, so I can come in here and change, oops, I do not want to sign out, change some of the settings. So if I pick meetings, for example, I can enable or disable team-specific things. This has nothing to do with the Jabra camera. This has to do with Teams itself. Like if I decide I don't want chat bubbles to pop up when people chat in the Q&A, I can turn that off. As was mentioned, we can join, or no, meetings, let's go back, tapped off. A Teams Rooms can join Cisco and Zoom meetings if configured correctly. If this were a Zoom room, you would replace where it says Zoom and put Microsoft Teams there, and then you could join the other ones back and forth. And then my sign-in accounts. Anyway, if you want to change some of the team stuff, you can do it there, and then that's basically what's exciting. Now, there's one problem with this, and that is you have to be in my condo to do this. Wouldn't it be swell if you could be not in St. Petersburg, Florida? It'd be swell if y'all were in St. Petersburg, Florida. We got beaches and some of the sunniest weather in America. But maybe your family doesn't live here, or you're like Josh, who used to live here and he decided he had enough of me and moved a state and a half away. You can get to this. Right? You're what?
I said, I think you all get it, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, he lived near mermaids. That is a true story. You can literally go to Weeki Wachee, Florida, and see a mermaid show.
Hashtag fun facts.
Yep. Also, fun fact, there's a place called Weeki Wachee. That seems made up. That seems really made up.
Google it. It's for real.
Right. If you can learn how to spell it. So here I'm just connecting via IP address. And you can also see my previous searches of Yahoo Fantasy Football. I'm 3-0 in one league and the other league. But here you can see all of the information that you're interested in seeing. And again, this is all the same stuff that we saw before. Here we do add the ability to download where you're going to get your firmware updates. Right now, I'm going Jabra support because I'm getting early releases, so I'm getting it from certain places. Teams Rooms, it says get it from Teams Admin Center or Zoom Device Manager if we're in Zoom mode. So this is how you can do your firmware updates, discard the changes. Again, the same brightness, video settings, same camera settings, all of that is there, same audio settings. If you want to change the network remotely, knock yourself out, enable Bluetooth, again, change the language. So all of this can be done remotely. The one thing you cannot do, and this is, again, sadly we can't fix this. You cannot change the Microsoft Teams settings from here. That we're in general, there was a service provider option not available. So Microsoft has not made it available via a web browser to make those changes. You'll have to do things like configuration profiles or walk up to the device. So that's the remote management story. And I think some people have been answering some questions throughout the chat as I've been going on here. So that's it.
Yep.
That's a quick run through of the video bar showing the 180-degree video and then how to manage this guy.
And I'll call out, since Michael just went to both the control settings as well as the web UI, that as I mentioned about dynamic composition and the upcoming changes there, that will be something that is able to be changed in both places in the not too distant future without a reboot of the device. So we're excited about that one. There was a question in here that just popped in. Will selecting Jabra support for the downloads still get you the Zoom or Teams software?
That will get you the correct firmware for your device. So if you're in Teams mode, it'll get the Teams firmware, and if you're in Zoom world, it'll get the Zoom firmware. So, Parker, hop on if I'm completely wrong on that, but that's it's just going to go to our website to pull them down, as opposed to basically Microsoft's Teams Admin Center or Zoom's Device Manager.
Exactly. Yes, but for the most part, we have been doing a good job of keeping up with questions in there, but we will throw up our got questions slide. It is that point in the presentation. Again, we put a link in the chat. Eric Taylor did for if you need an actual link, and the QR code isn't a handy way to access this for you, but there is that QR code one more time to go and bookmark future session pages.
One thing I do want to point out. Yep. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. My audio, I'm using a Jabra Speak 275, so I was not using the PanaCast 50 audio. So,
good call.
Yeah. And we're not trying to sell Speak 275s, but if you thought the audio was nice as I was walking around, go buy a Speak 275.
No, I think we are trying to sell Speak 275.
Oh, we are trying to sell Speak 275. So there you go. That is a team. By the way, that is a Microsoft Teams Room certified speaker puck.
It is. It is. So we encourage, again, we've had a lot of questions in the chat. I love the engagement there, and I see a lot of videos on, which is amazing. If you want to ask a question out loud, engage in conversation, heckle Michael for his birthday, please feel free to raise the hand. We'll unmute you, and you can jump in now with questions. But I'll also call out if you've got feedback you'd like to give for after the fact, other stuff you want to see us talking about, some tips. Use that QR code at the bottom. That'll give you a little bit of a feedback form there. And like I say here, we've got answers. We just can't guarantee they're always going to be the ones you want. So, but bring the questions. Any more? I love my Speak 275. That's not a question, but I love that comment. All right.
I think Parker's been doing he's been doing a good job answering these questions in chat. So I'm kind of scrolling through, and pretty much all of them have been addressed by Parker. So Parker, you get a round of applause from me later off camera, because I don't want anybody seeing publicly that I support you.
Beautiful. Okay, so any raised hands? Any more questions we can field? We've only got 2 minutes. We're down to the wire there. I'm assuming the fact that raised hands haven't happened yet, that we put it all in chat, so that's fine too. But all right. If there are none.
Okay, fine. Parker, congratulations. All right.
He deserves it. Let him have his moment there with that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you again, everyone, for taking the time to join us for our second Technically Speaking on webinar. Cannot wait to see you all for the PanaCast 21 next month. And especially like I said, make sure that management platform one is registered for, and you're ready for that in November. That is something we're really excited to kind of tell you about the vision there and what that means. So be there for that. Thank you for being here today, for turning on cameras, for throwing all the questions you have. This is great, and we're looking forward to the next time. Thanks everyone.
Jinx.